The other thing about it is when you're buying line, if you're going to do late season fishing, some of the lines are waxier. I've always used the Power Pro recently because it doesn't retain water. And what happens is I've used a few different brands where the water retention would freeze up and then your whole spool would go poof and you're done fishing with that rod, you know. That's why you need a lot of rods. So I try to explain that to the wife. So, all right, we'll get down to leaders. There's three kinds of leaders. That as well is dictated by the baits. And then there's a hybrid one there's three kind of leaders that I use. And they're dictated by the baits as well. There's one hybrid one I'll mention as well. But all the leaders, always use a leader. That's a no-brainer. You always use a leader, in my opinion. Why? Because those fish, what they'll do is they'll roll up in the baits. And right down here in their gill plates, I could show you about 10 scars on my hands, is where they'll cut the line. So it's good to have a nice leader, somewhere 12 to 18-inch leader on there. Roll-ups, misses. I'll never forget one time I'm fishing with a buddy of mine, and I see him set the hook, and he's, I missed him, my bait's gone. And I'm like, what? Your bait's gone? Now you're running, 80-pound Power Pro. You got a huge leader on there, big bait. How do you just lose your bait, That just doesn't happen. What'd you do, tie a bow with your knot or what? So all of a sudden, here comes a suet floating to the surface. The fish missed the bait and the leader and cut the line. Crazy. So sometimes these fish get big because they're stupid, I think. I like to think that. Either that or I just can't catch them. So the three kinds. One, all of them start, for me, I make my own, and what I find important in them, one, at the start of them, I usually use a Sampo 165-pound ball bearing swivel. The stay locks look good as well. I haven't used them, but they look good. All three of them start with that, and they all end with this snap right here. That's what I use. There's other guys that may use a split ring to put their baits on, but that's pretty cumbersome. I haven't had any problems with these stay locks. The middles. So let's talk about the three middles. One's fluorocarbon, and I like using somewhere 100 to 135-pound fluorocarbon leader material. And the stuff that I've used that I like the P-line leader material, and I also like the Sager. That's what I've used. I've used a few that I didn't like, and I've also got buddies that have used other things that they said were great, and they hadn't had problems. But I do know about the P-line and the other one. 7-strand or titanium, 80 to 120 pound. And what's nice about that is if you are fishing some of the Canadian Shield lakes, any of the rocky stuff, that's a good way to go. If you're banging bottom, same with trolling. I like using wire leaders banging bottom. So single strand wire. That's good for your side-to-side jerk baits. Your glide baits on top, so your docks, jackpots, one-eyed willies, that kind of stuff, or any of your glide baits, jerk baits. And the reason why is it'll sort of hinge. So when you jerk, a glide bait's going to swing out. When you jerk that thing, it's going to swing out, and that single strand's going to go like that. And then you're going to rip it, and it's going to swing like that. Now, if you're using fluorocarbon or 7-strand, every so often, it can happen more often than you'd like, but what will happen is that wire will get caught in the hooks when it swings. So if you're throwing jerk baits, glide baits, side to side, walk the dog style baits, it's good to use a single strand wire leader. And I also use single strand for these the dogs and Joes. A lot of times they'll take them right down to the throat, and I don't see any adverse problem with using them. Greg Thomas just came up with a hybrid one. He's got a good video out right now. The last one he just did, and he's got a hybrid leader. It's a good one, especially for here. It's on tube jigging, I think, with the guys from Red October Jigs. And he does one where he runs, I think, about 18 inches of fluorocarbon on a blood knot to his super braid, then down to a 6-inch single strand, ball bearing swivel, and then 6-inch single strand. And what he likes about it is his clients, one, they don't run the ball bearing swivel into the eyelet. Two, he can figure eight. He's got it right up next to the rod tip. So he said it works good. I haven't got to try that, but that was a good one. Then a couple good manufacturers for those. Stealth Tackle does a great job with their leaders, as does Monster Lures is just making a bunch of leaders, and he's a friend of mine, and I saw some of his stuff. It was really looked good. How to cast. All right, we'll see if this thing works. All right, what I like to do on these, especially on the big stuff, is I use my right hand for a fulcrum right off the bat. I'll click my release down. Somebody hold this. Thanks. So click the release down. Hold your thumb on the spool so it doesn't despool. Left hand goes down here. Swing back. About, I'd say about 1 o'clock or somewhere in here. You'll feel it. Let go of the spool. Keep your thumb near the spool as it's about to land. Stop the spool. If you don't stop the spool, that's how the lovely bird's nests start. When that happens, then I usually grab with this hand, click down on my lever here, and start the bait. So, thanks. That makes it a lot easier, especially with the heavy baits. Once the bait hits the water, two things with that. Once the bait hits the water, you want to get it moving, just in case that fish, as soon as it hits the water, eats. And that'll happen often, sometimes, you know. You hope. So, yeah, much easier. All right, so basically using it as a fulcrum. There's brakes on the reels. Different reels have different brake systems. This Abu Garcia has 2. One right here, one right there. Usually, I like to cinch one all the way down so you don't ever have to worry about it. Then the other side, I'll vary that with the bait. A good way to check it is to put a bait on the end of your line, then open the release. And if it slowly goes down, your brakes are probably set where you're not going to overrun when you cast. If it flies down real fast, you may have to add some brake to it. And, you know, as you get better, you can take the brakes all the way off. Sometimes if you're casting in the wind, you might want to put them on. If you notice when you cast, your lures are doing somersaults out there, then tighten the drag up a little bit or use your thumb to slow down that spool. Because what's going to happen is your line's going to get tangled up in the bait as it's flying out there. The other thing is drag. I put my drags on all the way. I tighten them up as much as I can. All the way. And when I hook a fish, whenever I feel like it, I might loosen it up if I need a little extra time to get it in, for any reason, you know. But the drag, I start with it as tight as it'll possibly go. And most any big fish I've caught casting could just rip drag out at will, even with it tightened down all the way.